Good evening. I'd like to welcome you all to the September 21st, 2017 Benicia Unified School District regular school board meeting. We have nothing to report out on closed session. So at this time, would you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do we have a...
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Agenda's approved. Our highlight tonight, Dr. Young.
Good. Thank you very much. Good evening, board. Good evening, everybody who had an opportunity to join us. So we had an amazing event last week. We had an opportunity to celebrate the opening of our new upper stadium. We had our first game there. The attendance was absolutely amazing. And then we thought we would just take a moment this evening to hear from some of the students about how excited they are about the new stadium. So welcome. And we welcome Ms. Kleinschmidt, the principal, who will tee it up.
I just want to quickly introduce our students who are here to talk with you briefly tonight, give you a few different perspectives from their experiences there. So tonight we have Braden Levezo and Koe Alava, and we have Fernando Lang, Autumn Jarmel, and Megan Silo, and they're all going to speak with you a little bit. And then we also actually are going to be starting with a video that Christian Chavez made that I think just, if you weren't able to be there, it really captures the experience and the excitement in a nice way. So good job, Christian.
You just hit play. Would it?
Koe, you can go first. I know Koe's not shy.
Yes. My name is Koe Oliva. I'm a senior. I play varsity football, and just to share about our experience as a team, as a whole, playing for the first time on the field, I can say that, unfortunately, it was a very long wait. But coming up to that week, it was like we were all like so super excited to play, super grateful. It was just a great time. The whole experience from when we ran on the field to when we the last seconds of the game, it was just crazy. It was like went by super fast, and I think it was just an unbelievable night. I will always remember, being the first varsity team to play on that field. I've never seen a field like that, so I'm just really grateful to even play on that field.
I'm Braylon Vizo. I also was a senior. This is my last year playing football. Having the new field built was a good experience, and we probably had this is probably our biggest game for us because we had brought the intensity a whole new level. And I want to thank you guys for giving us that opportunity.
Hello, I'm Fernando Lang. I'm also a varsity football player, and it really is just a privilege to play on this new field, and it makes me really grateful for having this opportunity my senior year. I'm also a track athlete, so on this upcoming year, school year, to be racing against other fellow schools on this field and track is quite the privilege, and I'm really grateful for it. So thank you all.
Hi, my name is Autumn Jarmel. Yay. And my name is Megan Sillo. And during the last 16 months, we've witnessed the process of our home field being torn down to dirt to becoming an amazing new stadium for our student body to enjoy as a whole. After the long and anxious wait, we finally got to celebrate the opening of our new field and first home football game on September 15th, 2017. Not only were we provided with a beautiful stadium, it also placed down the building blocks for a new connected beginning for our school and community, a sense of togetherness for the city of Benicia. As Panther Pride president and leader of the student section,
and varsity cheer captain, we saw our school unite like never before. The field has impacted Panther Pride and the cheer team tremendously. The cheer team is especially grateful for being able to cheer at home with our friends and family after a season of traveling away. It's a great feeling to be in Benicia under the brand new Friday Night Lights with our Panther Pride.
Our student section was packed with students from all classes decked out in blue and gold. The overwhelming amount of school spirit and participation we got from the student section brought back unity for the student body. It was an exciting time to finally cheer on our Panthers on our home turf in an enjoyable and positive environment. The interaction with bands and cheer made the meaning of Friday night football games what it's all about. We look forward to more home games and exciting events on our new stadium and represent our school with pride.
Thank you.
Thank you. Student reports.
And so last week, for some past events, we had the opening of our field, which was like a big moment for us. And JV and varsity went out, and it was 27-6 for JV and 30-6 for varsity. So that was like a really impressive feat for that day, especially since it's our opening day. And student section was filled with a lot of energy. We had so much participation, and we just hope to continue that throughout the whole school year. And today at school, we wanted to show awareness for Suicide Prevention Month. So we had the student body deck out in turquoise and purple to show honor towards that. And also we had our annual blood drive today, in which about 57 students donated blood, so that was a really good thing.
Hello everybody, I'm Alex Torres, and I'm going to be talking about the upcoming events. So tomorrow is our second home game versus Concord, so be sure to get there. should be lots of fun, especially the student section. The student section theme for tomorrow will be neon. Homecoming voting begins next Monday. That should be a lot of fun. We did mention this in the last board meeting about our homecoming, starting October 9th through the 14th. And we would like to ask if you guys maybe could get the word out with our new carnival this year. We would like to see if we can get lots of participation. And first improv show of the year next Friday, starting at 7. Thank you.
All right. I'm Trevor from Liberty, and this week we had a Spirit Week, which is pretty cool, and we have a field day tomorrow with some basketball tournaments and cornhole, food, drinks, just a fun time. And then on last Saturday, we had coastal cleanup and had the most pounds recorded for our school at least. That was pretty cool, a good turnout for that. And then, do you want to speak knowledge?
I'm Janessa, and we did talk about this at our last board meeting, but next Tuesday at 6:30 is our back to school day, or back to school thing for parents, people outside of the community who want to learn about Liberty, and our advisors just want to let parents know what our advisors do and how to help us learn more about outside of stuff more than just school things in Liberty. And I think that's pretty cool. So we also do use the Remind app, which the school texts you and just lets you know about what days are coming up, about field day tomorrow and the stuff about Spirit Week. Practice. Oh yeah, and basketball practice starts already
this Monday.
Well done.
Oh, quick question. Why is Principal Kleinsmith wearing a green?
Today we asked the students to wear turquoise and purple for Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. Yeah, that's why.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent report? Good, thank you. Well done. Appreciate that. Nicely stated. So just a few items. I was invited to attend the Valero Star Site Safety Celebration last week. An opportunity to attend with City Councilman Mark Hughes. Alan from the City Council was also there, and it was a terrific celebration with Valero, focusing on that they're probably the safest refinery in California. And to hear them talk about it and how they value it and how they promote safety and watching them all come together as a team up there to make sure that they're running safely. So I was happy to attend that and brought some of that information back to Alfredo Romero, our Director of Maintenance, because we also value safety with all of our employees. Tuesday night of this week, I attended the City Council meeting because there was an item on there that the city is considering regarding whether or not they want to have cannabis dispensaries in town. So considering a number of things, do they want to have them in town? Where would they place them in town? So this is a conversation that they've been having for a while, and Trustee Ferrucci joined me, Principal Kleinschmidt was there, and a previous board member, Dana Dean, was also there, and she now serves on as a county board member. So we had an opportunity to speak, and I, as superintendent, would like to encourage the community to be aware of this conversation and the decision that the City Council will make, and the thoughts that I shared with them. And it wasn't to vilify or moralize marijuana use, but that we're very, very cognizant and conscious of its potential effect on our youth in town and its potential effect on our schools. I think it's something that we need to partner with very closely with the city. And again, I'm speaking about it tonight because I'm not sure how much the community or parents are aware of it or they're considering it. So wherever you stand on it, I think it's a good idea for you to be very aware of the decision that will be made at some point with the City Council. And again, its potential effect on the youth in Benicia and our schools. We recently, with the help of Dr. Gill, who's doing a terrific job for us, we put out an employment engagement survey recently. And the reason we did that is because we want to have a sense of how our employees, classified and certificated, feel about working in the district. We asked them questions in a number of categories, and it supports one of the bigger goals that we've set for the district that this year I've talked a lot with staff and the trustees about focusing on culture, organizational culture of the district. So part of that goal was to gather data with our employees to see how they feel about working here. Quick point on that, we needed, just a statistical point, I think this is kind of cool, if you guys like this, that we needed to get at the 95% confidence interval, we needed 217 respondents. We got well over that, like 280 responses, so it was 291. So statistically, we're at the 95% confidence interval, which means you can generalize that information to the rest of the population of staff who could have responded and who didn't. In a brief view of it, there are a lot of positives in the data that we're getting back. And so we're going to drill down and see what it really means for us so we can use it to get better, and we'll share it out with all of employees. But the two that stood out to me right at the top was I'm proud to work in BUSD, very, very high score. And I very much like coming to work every day. So those are the two big ones that stood out for me, but many pluses and more information to come on that. We started negotiations today. It was the first session with the BTA bargaining unit, right? And Dr. Gill was her first session with them, and she's been thinking about it since she started. And I think she said it was a good day, and we're making progress. And the next negotiation day is set for October 19th. And some of the bargaining members are back there. One's back there. Hello. Another quick point on this Monday night, from 5:30 to 7:30, we'll have a single item board study session, and it's to focus on budget. And we'll have a representative from School Board Association to come and talk to us about that. And study sessions are different than regular board meetings. It's more conversational. We're not sort of limited to that 3-minute comment. So I invite people to come and attend that meeting and be part of that conversation. And we put out an invitation to the bargaining units because we really love for you to be there and join us in that conversation. That's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Board reports.
We've already talked about the stadium opening, and the elementary back-to-school nights followed that quickly. And so I stopped at Joe Henderson, which was packed. It took me longer to find parking than anything else. And it looked like it was really going well.
I don't have much to report other than, the stadium opening was great and back to school night was great. And I've been lucky enough to be able to participate in a Masters of Governance course, which is a course held by the California School Board Association, where they impart lots of really good information. And it's been a great learning opportunity for me. So I've had 4 out of the 5 done. So one more. And then you got to get a diploma and a little graduation ceremony for some reason. But anyway.
I just wanted to congratulate the district, the leadership, the employees, the teachers, the students, the parents. It's been a great start to the year. We've had a lot of events, right? It's been back to school nights. There's been lots of extra workshops. The communication's been wonderful. And it kind of did all culminate in the celebration that we had at the high school. The effort and the timeline it took to pull that off, it looked like it just was so easy. We all got there and had a big party, but congratulations on all the work that went into that. And my favorite part, not my most favorite part, because my son was playing on the JV team, but my second favorite part of the night was watching Brianna, Principal Kleinsmith, the pride on your face, walking around as an alum and as the principal of the school it just exemplified, I think, what everyone was feeling. And you were walking everywhere. We could see you. And congratulations. Well done. Nice job. It's been a great start to the year.
Okay, well, I also was there, and it was to see everybody there and to see the kids so enthusiastic. It just made all the pain in this very long journey seem like it was more than well worth it. So I just want to thank everybody for that. I hit 2 elementary schools that night as I was moving my way towards home. And the turnout was just amazing in the schools. And, you know, the rooms looked wonderful. It looked very warm and inviting. You know, again, I think it's kudos to our staff because it was pretty incredible. I also went to our Solano County School Board executive meeting the other night too. So get ready, guys. Mark your calendars for November 13th. It's a Monday evening. We will be having our fall dinner meeting and reception. We will be hosting that night the topic of CTE. And we'll be having a dinner. And again, it's going to be at Solano Community College because of the number of people that are responding this time instead of at SCOE. So that's going to be pretty big. And then I also attended the city council meeting with Dr. Young and Ms. Klein-Smith the other night too. And Benicia's moving fast on us. And I think it would behoove us to engage. And I'm just kind of hoping that our families in the community will make their voices be heard. I think it's going to be real important that we do. So, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a privilege to dedicate and open our football field or our sports complex because it's an official soccer field. We could do sanctioned track meets. We meet all the requirements, so it's not just a football field, but. So that was a lot of fun and real enjoyable. And then just the game, you know, you talk about the varsity, but the stands were packed halfway through the JV game. The student section was packed during the JV game, and so they sold over 1,800 tickets. That's not counting the ASB cards that got in for free, and the band and the players and those of us with passes and everything. And so, I mean, we hold 2,200 people on our side and we had just a few seats available, but we didn't count all the people standing down along the field and in the aisles. So, and I hope we do that all season. And as well as move into the other sports that use the field. So looking forward to all that. And just thank you for all of our students for being patient. And our community for being patient, and we're still working on details on when we can open the track up to the community and you know, all that sort of stuff. Because having a field like this, it does require a lot of protection and a lot of maintenance and you know, making sure that it's going to last us a long time. So, and what else do I have? Something else, but I forgot.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
Now that everything's operating up at the field, I'm just wondering what do you won't be able to fix anything because so many years you were needing. Mr. Wing was putting the lights together and the speakers and. Oh yeah. What? Well,
we'll just let him move on to the next.
Yeah, we're going to move on to the next thing. Yep.
One quick thing to add before.
We're still working on sound and adjustments to the lights. So we have some dark areas on the lights on the field, but so we're still working on that. And but yes, we have a couple of dark areas that the lights don't cover.
President Wing's working on the video scoreboard that.
Yes, if people want to donate a new scoreboard for us, please email me or a superintendent, and we're taking donations or sponsorship. That's the only thing that did not get replaced.
Something vintage.
Something vintage there. Yep.
We should have both, that and one on the side.
And I do appreciate all the sponsors that sponsored our sports that are going on. We are taking sponsorships. Their banners are along the fence of our field. So I do appreciate them and everything that's doing for us too. But with that, that's all I have that I can remember.
Let me make a comment of one more thing.
Sure.
And I think it was Brianna's idea. I don't know whose idea it was, but the idea of the memory bricks, that was brilliant. That was so much fun trying to find your brick in in that maze, in that circle, and people were getting really excited that we're standing around doing it. And I did too, because I took a picture of mine and I shot it right out to my kids. But that was just such a personal, amazing touch to add to that, because it really took in people over time, because people were there. I recognized names, and they hadn't played in a long time, and they were part of the school.
I loved the ones where the kids are like 2024.
Oh yeah, the kids that are ahead. That was amazing. Yes. So that was a great addition to include, to kind of pull everybody into that. So
I just wanted to make one quick announcement. Night of Stars, September 29th. If you haven't gotten your tickets, get them soon. We're getting close to sold out.
And that is next Friday.
Yeah.
So busy week next week.
Yep.
Thank you. This time I'd like to say thank you to our students and let you go. At this time, we are going to take comments from members of the public. Members of the public may address the board on any item within the board's jurisdiction. Cards which may be completed requesting to address the board are available at the back table and may be submitted to the board secretary at the meeting. The governing board allows speakers to speak on agendized and non-agendized matters under public comment, and comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes per speaker. And by law, no action may be taken on any item raised during the public comment periods, and matters may be referred to staff for placement on a future agenda of the governing board. Jojo, will you come up here, please?
Jojo Donetti, Benicia Community Tennis Association. Just here to give you your girls' tennis report. We are undefeated again. We're 7-0 so far this year, and we've extended our record to 69-0. So on Monday, we're playing American Canyon? American Canyon at home to tie the all-time conference record, which is 70-0, and it's held by the Bandon boys team. So hopefully we'll get there, and then we'll face Fairfield on Wednesday, and we'll get 71-0. So we will own the record forever, since we're not going to be part of this conference anymore after this year. So pretty exciting. The girls are really, what's that? Yeah, absolutely. So they're doing really well. We did lose 3 seniors, but some of the juniors and sophomores have really stepped up. So good team. Yeah, and Benicia Community Tennis Association will be donating 4 new nets to the high school courts because they're in pretty bad shape. It's a little over $800. So this weekend we're having a work party at the courts to install the new nets. In case anybody wants to come out and learn how to do that, you're more than welcome. And then my final point, it's actually kind of disturbing. I got a note from a parent of a student at the middle school. Her child was beaten by a group of kids, a group of 7th and 8th graders at lunch period. And he had to go to the doctor. He's not able to do any sports, nothing for the next couple of weeks. So if this hasn't been brought to your attention, I hope you take it seriously. It just happened on Tuesday. Poor little guy is going to be out of commission for a couple of weeks, and there was no reason for it, for a gang of 7th and 8th graders to attack a 6th grader. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comments? Okay, we will close the public comment time and move on to the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered by the board to be routine and will be approved by the board in one motion. There will be no discussion on these items unless members of the board, staff, or public request specific items to be pulled and discussed. We have a...
Make a motion to approve the consent calendar. Oh.
Okay. It is a, we have a resolution on here, so we got to do a roll call vote.
We have to review.
And we'll review the gifts, yeah.
Clerk Ferrucci?
Yes.
Trustee Holguin?
Yes.
Trustee Monette?
Yes.
Trustee Morgan?
Yes.
President Wing?
Yes.
Thank you.
Would our clerk read our
We have a gift from the Kiwanis Club, Kara Gretchen Burnitz from Buena Vista, Benicia, California, to the Benicia Middle School Viking Band boosters in the amount of $1,200. So we thank you.
And thank you also to the tennis club.
Yes. Thank you for the tennis club too. Okay. Moving on to discussion items. There we go. We have first reading. Dr. Young.
Thank you very much. So, kind of a routine agenda item that we have for ourselves, and I'm proud of the fact that I think we continue to be diligent with our updating of board policies and making good inroads there. Our board policy review committee meets once a month, and we met last week, and we discussed a number of items, board policies in there. Some interesting ones this time around vision, district philosophy, responsibility use guidelines of technology, etc. So we present them to you tonight. See if you have any questions for us. So the one thing that I will point out, it was shared wisely at a previous board meeting that periodically at part of this conversation that as superintendent I would share with the trustees any kind of follow-up work that we're doing, because we bring these policies forward, they guide our work, and then sometimes they ask for training. So I want to make sure that we're diligent with that. So the next board meeting, I'll bring that up, any kinds of things that we've needed to do with recent policies that involved training, change of practice, etc. And there they are.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, update and report of strategic plans and local control accountability. All right. Dr. Beatson?
Good evening. Thank you. I'm actually going to go up to the mic because Ms. Stephanie Rice, our new coordinator of Ed Services, is going to join me in this presentation. Good evening. It's my privilege to be here and present to you two parts of our LCAP, our strategic plan. This primarily is a wrap-up from last year's plan. So we like to present the progress along the way throughout the year. And in June, we did not have all of our data in to let you know, did we meet our targets, did we not meet our targets? And so we still don't have all of the data yet for various reasons, and I'll go through that as we go through this plan, but wanted to kind of wrap up last year's plan and then just give you a reminder of what we have set for ourselves for this year. So again, I just went over this. We'll remind you what it is and how it came to be, just because we do this periodically, and it's important to remember why we have a strategic LCAP and what the metrics are that are in here and what our goals are and how we're going to monitor this year and what you can expect from us at future board meetings. So back in 2013-14, our funding formula for the state of California changed to LCFF, Local Control Funding Formula, and it replaced the previous financial system. And along with that came the LCAP, the Local Control Accountability Plan. We have decided as a district, with your support, to use this as our district strategic plan as well. And the LCAP has all types of actions and services listed in it under 3 broad goals, and it has metrics for us on how to measure and progress monitor our work towards achieving those goals. And there's a particular focus on what the state has called unduplicated students. So those are our English learners, our low socioeconomic students, and our foster youth. So this, in addition to being an accountability measure for our finances and how we're spending them and how we're supporting the unduplicated student groups, it is also now, with the new statewide assessment system, it is an accountability system for that as well. Okay, so it works as both of those things. And just a reminder that, as we talked about last year, this is a huge driving force for us, but there are also just some plain old compliance pieces that we have to include. And so some of the metrics, we have 8 state priorities that we have to measure. And so some of them are really, there's student engagement, parent involvement, school climate, student outcomes, student achievement, course access, implementation of state standards, and some basic services. So some of them may not always feel like they fit exactly under that particular goal, but we have to report on our work towards those per law. And then finally, a shift this year is the template, which is the state requires us to use a particular template, and it is a 3-year plan now. It always was, but it changed every year. It was we only reported on 1 year. Now the template has it's called a 3-year rolling or static plan. So we have our baseline data. We have our goals and targets for this year. We have just copied and pasted those for the outer years because we don't get our data back to know if we need to adjust those in time. But the idea is the actions and services take a while to take root. And so we don't want to just every year start from scratch and every year start from scratch. That doesn't mean that we won't come back and make adjustments as needed because of budgetary requirements or things that are just not going to happen for one reason or another or are not appropriate anymore. So with that, just a quick reminder, the LCAP is over a 100-page document, and just to remind you, it's in several sections. I think of them as chapters. The first part is a 3-year summary. That's the Cliff Notes. If you don't want to read the whole thing, it tells you a little bit about what's in the plan. Then there's the annual update, and we have to do that every single year, and that is where we talk about, we said we were going to do this in actions and services, and this is what actually ended up happening. This is the money we said we were going to spend, and this is what we actually spent, so we have to continually update that. There's a section or a chapter on stakeholder engagement, and that is part of the law, which says we can't just sit in an office by ourselves and write this plan. We need to engage all of our community, so our staff, our administrators, our students, our parents. And so there's lots of ways that we did that this past year. And then we get to new goals, outcomes, actions, and budgets. And this year, in this new plan, those are together. So there's the metrics, and then under that are all of the actions, and then under that are all of the budget and how those are all linked together. And then the final section in the LCAP is services for unduplicated students. So we have to kind of go back into the actions and pull out the ones that are specific for those 3 groups of students and write about why we've chosen them and how we're doing that. So that's sort of the layout of the plan. I just talked about this, so I'm going to just quickly touch on the different chapters, if you will. The 3-year plan summary, like I said, it's the Cliff Notes, and in that you'll find the story of BUSD, our vision, our mission, the highlights from the plan. A big component of this part are the greatest strengths and greatest needs by site based on data, and this was last year's data. We will update that this year as soon as our data gets unembargoed. And performance gaps, we have to identify those as well. So the next part of our plan is the annual update. As I said, that is to talk about our progress on outcomes, actions, services, and budgets. And so now I'm going to share with you, how did we do last year? So remember, this is last year's data. Goal 1 has to do with professional learning, social and emotional wellness, and college and career readiness. Those are the 3 components of Goal 1. Absolutely.
When you say embargo, does that mean you can't tell us, but you know it, or?
So, yep.
Okay.
Thanks for asking that question. So that's exactly what it means.
All right.
The SBAC data was set to be released about, a month ago. It was been on your board agenda, then pulled, and on the board agenda and pulled. So what happens is the state sends us, okay, you can look, and they usually give us 24 to 48 hours to look at the data and say, does it look right? And we have to let them know if there's anything that looks a little off. And then typically they have a date set for public release, which is pretty quickly after the preview period. And what happened this year was we had the preview period, and the public release was supposed to be that following Tuesday. and they sent a message out saying it's not going to go for public release. We're continuing to embargo. So they actually pulled it, and a couple of weeks went by. And so we're just getting that preview again, but they still, in this letter, they haven't set the public release date, which is different than what they usually do. So I'm not 100% sure when it's going to happen. And I'll show you in the next slide, and you probably saw it in your packet, all of the different metrics that are in this particular goal. SBAC is only one of them. That's our English and our math state data. I will report on that as soon as I can. Most of our other measurable outcomes were very close to being met. So we didn't meet some of them, but we might have been off by 1%. We still have a couple that we don't have that data on because we have to wait for it to get verified in CalPADS. We did meet our goal in the number of students taking AP courses, and that all of our courses are now Common Core aligned. Not all to NGSS for the science yet, but all of our other courses are aligned there.
It's, Dr. Beatson,
yes.
Just a quick point, and I wanted to clarify when you talked about the embargo, that wasn't just, it's not just Benicia, it's all
the whole state.
All school districts in California. And because I kind of read your lips back there, you guys like, how come? We don't know.
Sorry.
But it's not just Benicia, it's all districts. I just want to clarify.
They have not really said why. They said the individual student reports they're guaranteeing are correct because we've got to send those home, but something happened when they compiled the data in their metrics in their system that there was a few areas that were off, so then they had to go back through everything. But they don't really tell you exactly what happened. Okay?
So on your slide there, the second and third bullet points, is that on the embargo data or last year's data?
So the first bullet point's the only one on SBAC, and then the second and third, let me just scroll up here, and you'll have that, you'll probably be able to see it better in your packet.
Yep.
There's all of these other measures.
That's the other data.
That's all the other data. So you can see our 2015-16 results are in that first column. Last year's results are in the second column. We have identified that the SBAC data is embargoed. And then we did a met or not met for what we had put for our targets. And many of them are not met, but we're only off by a tiny bit. And so we will go back and look at that and readjust where we need to. Did that answer your question? Okay, great.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
So I'm assuming, like under goal 1, for example, A, the ELA. So the 60 to 65% at the end is the goal?
Yes.
That's correct. Okay, just wanted to clarify.
That was what, so this is where our timelines are sometimes off. We set our goal as 60 to 65, but that was before we had gotten the previous year's data.
Right.
So sometimes we have to go back and adjust because that data comes after. This is due to the state where we say this is what our goal is. So sometimes we'll set a goal, and then when our data comes in, we say, geez, we didn't make even the baseline of where we wanted. Do we need to adjust? Does that make sense?
So these are the original goals as opposed to?
These are last year's, what we had
year's
set
goals.
a year ago.
Right.
That are wrapping up this year, and then we have new ones for this coming year.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Goal 2 is really around 21st century learning. Those are our spaces and our devices and use of technology. I'm happy to report that in that goal, we have met or exceeded all of our measurable outcomes, and here is a list of those as well. And so that was, we were very pleased to see that work in that area. Any questions on this one? No? Okay. And then our third goal is on parent and community partnerships. And again, this is for last year. We met our goals in attendance and parent participation. We had sent out a particular LCAP parent survey where we averaged 3 of the questions. It's the same survey. The parents had requested that from my parent advisory committee. It's the same survey that we had sent out 2 years ago. And we did not quite meet that goal. And we did not meet our goal of chronic absenteeism. So we're going to take a closer look at what's happening there as well. And some, excuse me, some data in this particular goal is not available yet because we have to have it verified by CalPADS, which happens in fall 1, which Robert Wall tells me is around the beginning of October. So hopefully I will have all of that data. And that includes graduation rate. So we know what we think it is, but it gets verified, so we want to make sure that we give you what the state finally says. So any questions on, this is goal 3. Any questions on that data? Excellent. The next chapter in the LCAP is the stakeholder engagement. Just a quick reminder, as I said earlier, it is by law that we have multiple opportunities to collect input. We did that last year. We had a lot of participation from staff and students, both in the input on the current plan and then helping give input on prioritization of actions and services to be included in this year's plan. And this year, the stakeholder engagement is still a requirement, and we will continue to do that. However, because it's a 3-year rolling plan, we won't be starting all over. So that stakeholder engagement will look a little bit differently, but we will still engage all of those stakeholders. So now just a reminder that we have now new goals, outcomes, actions, and budgets. We talked about the new format of the plan. A new section here is that we have an identified needs section, so we have to identify a need based on data. We've identified a much more robust, I feel, set of metrics. Many more we've included in terms of where we want to go based on last year's data. We'll wait again to update that, but one of the things to take note of if you look through the LCAP is we have goal 1, and then we have sort of a subheading, a 1.1. So there's in goal 1, there's 4 kind of sub sections, and everything is labeled with a like a 1.1A. So you can find action A, and then you have to turn the page, and there's the budgets after that section, and those are all labeled with the same number. So if you want to look at how those things correlate, that's how you would do that. And I will get you a new copy once all of this data is in, so then you can have the most up-to-date copy.
Just on the goals, because it's a roll-up. Is there some way that you could flag, I guess, if a population within the data is an outlier to the standardized data, meaning that, you know, if the dropout rate averages less than 3% or whatever that number was, but among one segment it was really high, and it just, would you flag that for us? Would you say, okay, but...
And it is all spelled out in the LCAP. So we have 3, and so into this coming year, there's several groups that we're looking at, and the way our data comes now is really great. It's broken out. We look at suspension. We look at all of the different metrics through the lenses of multiple student groups. So not only are 3 unduplicated, but all the different ethnicities, EL, socioeconomic, and then we can sort our data by that as well. And so in the areas where we're struggling, we have set a metric for that particular student group. That makes sense. And so, and like I said, once I can get all this data, I can bring you, and I would like to hear from you. Do you want a hard copy of this? Or personally, I find it easier as a hard copy to flip through, but we can talk about that. And then I can show you how to read all of those different parts and where you can find that information. And so now we're starting to, so I've given you the update on last year, and now we're sort of just reminding you what we're going to be working on this year.
So as you're aware, last year our administrative team read the book 4 Disciplines of Execution, and through that, book, the team came up with 2 wildly important goals, WIGs, and these goals are really important because they are the overarching theme of our district, and it embodies culture and community. So the first goal is increase the overall student reach score from 65 to 75 by October 2018. And the reach survey was given out to our students, and that was reflecting developmental relationships amongst our students and our staff. Our second goal is to increase the BUSD healthy organizational culture and engagement survey score. And on here we have from X to Y by October 2017. And that's due to, we just sent out a district survey. Yeah, okay. And we received a large number of responses, 291 responses. And so we are now going to drill down and really focus in on needs for improvement to help create a positive community and culture in our district. And by doing this, this is going to help support the work in our strategic plan for our goals 1 through 3. So goal 1 is to create a collaborative team of highly engaged staff that supports the academic, emotional, and social success of all students for college and career readiness. And to put that in a nutshell, that's professional learning, social and emotional wellness, and focusing on college and career readiness for our students.
Last year, we had that trifold for you with the actions and services. We didn't make a new trifold at this point, but this slide highlights not all of, but many of the actions inside that goal that are new and different. So I'm going to just pick out a couple to share with you. So in college and career ready, that's really around our academics. We're implementing next generation science standards. So our 6th and 7th grade science classes are doing integrated science, fully implemented, and we've started 9th grade next generation science physics. We've implemented 2 new CTE pathways. We have an instructional coach at the middle school in math, and we have one of our 9th grade science, our physics teachers at the high school supporting the 9th grade science roll-up. So those are some of the highlights there. Social and emotional, we are continuing with PBIS, Positive Behavior Intervention Support, as a school-wide system of supports for students. And in addition to that, we have a couple of schools who are working on restorative justice. So when something happens, how do we work as a school community to help kids kind of restore whatever is broken within their environment? So that is new. We have implemented the high school bill schedule, and that was a big piece of looking at student wellness. Robust professional learning. We are so proud and happy to report that we have been selected, or I guess accepted, I should say, as Teachers College Reading and Writing Project affiliate schools. Remember, Teachers College is part of Columbia University in New York. It is their education program, and we have 3 schools now, our 3 Title I schools that are affiliate schools, which means we get 20 days of on-site professional development with a Teachers College staff developer. And this week, they are here at Mary Farmer and Robert Semple and Benicia Middle School. So Stephanie has been running around making sure all of that is going well, and I believe the teachers have had a good time with that. We have looked at going back to teaming at the middle school because we know that that is great for kids and at that level. So just some highlights. I'm not going to read through all of them, but this is where you can get your kind of cheat sheet of what's in that particular goal.
All right, just to recap on goal 2, modernize and improve infrastructure to provide a learning environment that offers opportunities for 21st century teaching and learning. And that simply said that we are preparing our students for what's ahead in 21st century learning.
And here, again, our key actions, some of them are the same because we're continuing to work on integrated technology standards, creating Google Classrooms, Code.orgs, and apps and websites. And our tech department and Alberto Barcenas, who is our tech integration specialist, he works K-8, have been working really hard to make sure that not only is the integration happening in the classroom, that devices are working, and that we're also following best practices in terms of student safety around those. So that's been a big task that they've been working on. And then our final goal,
and this is really supported under our WIG, and that's to increase community and parental involvement through awareness and engagement. So actively involving our stakeholders in our decision process.
And again, these actions and services continuing to have 2 ways of communication two-way communication to receive and send out information to be really inclusive with our community. And then the final part of the LCAP document is this section called Increased Services for Unduplicated Students. And that's where we have to go back into all what the actions and services are throughout all three goals and pull out the ones that are specifically targeted for those three groups: foster youth, English learners, and socioeconomically disadvantaged. And we get about $1.5 million specifically that must be targeted for those three groups of students. And so I wanted to pull out some of the actions that we have targeted for that. So this summer, and I reported on this earlier this year, we had that summer Jumpstart Reading and Math program for our students moving from 1st to 2nd grade in literacy, 5th to 6th in math, 8th to 9th in math, to really support students at our Title I schools. We have designated some funding for library support to build up literacy and library books at our Title I schools. We've partnered with some community for after school and extra visual and performing arts support for our Title I schools. We've been working on the model middle school structure. We've added a teachers college affiliate school, and we have a full-time instructional math coach. And so all of those are focused at our Title I schools to help those students. And that is the LCAP in a nutshell. Any questions, comments? All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to our non-consent action items. And at this time, we will close our board meeting, open up public hearing for resolution number 17-18-03. Dr. Beatson.
Sure. Every year, Ed Code requires the governing board to approve an annual resolution stating that each student is provided the materials needed to support this year's course instruction. So we have been working with school sites and teachers to make sure that any textbooks that were missing or lost or we did not have enough, we have ordered them and they are either in hand or on their way. And at this point, I guess our recommendation is that you approve this resolution. Did you need me to read the resolution? No. Okay.
Do we have any public questions, comments, or anything on this? Okay, I will close public hearing, reopen our board meeting. Do we have a recommendation? A motion, I'm sorry.
I make a motion that we approve resolution number 17-18-03.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call vote, please.
Clerk Ferrucci?
Yes.
Trustee Monette? Yes. Trustee Morgan? Yes. President Wing?
Yes.
Thank you. And
also note that
Trustee Holguin is absent.
Yes, she just had to leave for family. Yep. Okay, so that passes. Moving on to 13.2, consideration and approval of the appointment of members of the Benicia Unified School District Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. Mr. Rahill.
Good evening. Yes, we have this item for your action tonight to reappoint 2 of our 7 members to our Citizens Bond Oversight Committee as required from our local facility bond that was passed by the voters in 2014. We are required to have a 7-member citizen committee that is oversight of our bond expenditures. So 2 of those positions are up for appointment. We did do the required advertising in the community. We did not get any applications this time, but the 2 existing members are more than happy to continue. This will be their 3rd term, and according to the bylaws, this will be the last time they're eligible to be appointed, serving 3 consecutive terms. So it's for a 2-year period, and the superintendent is recommending reappointment. Pat Lopes as the Tax Association member, and Ron Arentz as a at-large member.
we have any questions, comments? Are there any public questions or comments? Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll move that we approve the recommendation to appoint Pat Lopes as the bona fide Taxpayer Association member and Ron Ahrens as the at-large member to the bond committee.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes. And the last one, consideration and approval of the 2016-17 unaudited actual finance report of the Benicia Unified School District. Mr. Rayhill.
Good evening. We have this for your as an action item tonight to approve our 2016-17 unaudited actuals report. We have some pie charts and some graphs to go through. Basically, our fiscal year ended on June 30th, 2017, and we had spent the last couple months closing the books and putting together this report, which is called the Unaudited Actuals Report, which now goes to the county office and the state. We also provide it to our auditors, who will come back for their final audit visit, and they will audit this, and we'll bring you back the audit report at the December school board meeting. So we have our 2016-17 closed books. There's also some projections in there for the current and following budget year that we'll talk about as part of this presentation as well. So when we look at 2016-17, the revenues that we have budgeted and booked are $46.3 million. In our revenue pie chart, the big blue section is 83% of our revenues comes from the state of California through the funding formula, the local control funding formula. And in order to receive that $38.4 million, we have to do the LCAP, which Dr. Beatson and Stephanie Rice just presented to you in the previous board item. So we add to that some other funding from the state, about $3.9 million, a little bit from the federal government, $1.2 million, and local revenues of about $2.7 million, of which a big chunk of that comes from our Solano County special education group that we get our special ed funding from. Just in the bottom left-hand section, we always include this in the Benicia School District, that $38.4 million that we get from the state for the local control funding formula. You can see that most of that does come from the state, about $24 million of that, and $14 million of that comes from the local property taxes. Other districts in some areas have property values that are much higher than what their formula provides, and so if their property taxes produce more than what the state formula is calculated out, they get to keep those extra property taxes. Those are called basic aid districts. Benicia would have a long way to go in order to be a basic aid district. So we are relying upon the state and the formula to provide that funding for us. We then compare that on the next slide to our expenses for 16-17. So we have spent down a little bit more than what we brought in by spending some of our carryover balances at $46.5 million. As a school district, between 85 and 90% of our budget is spent on salary and benefits to the people who educate and provide related services to our students. And the remaining 14% is for the supplies and services and utilities to operate our schools. So for the 16-17 year, again, spending down some of the carryover balances, we will be and have operated at a deficit of about $216,000. The next pie chart shows what's left over after the books have been closed, what's remaining in our fund balance. We do have our state required 3% reserve at $1.4 million. The school board has a board policy reserve that adds another $2 million to that on top. That's about a 4% addition. And then there are remaining restricted program reserves at about $3.7 million, of which most of that is from the state one-time grant which was implemented the last few years. And so we've developed a multi-year plan to spend that down into the future. So reserve fund balance, ending balance of $7.1 million. So in order to get a positive certification, which this report includes, we are required to have that 3% reserve, which we do. The next slides are informational. It tells some of the key fiscal factors that we look at when we put our budget together and when we also close our books. I think now maybe for the last year we've added this page, which attempts to communicate the material amount that our district, as well as every other school district in California, and all the other public agencies that are a part of the employee pension plans, STRS and PERS. STRS is specifically for teachers. PERS is also for school classified employees, but there's other groups in the PERS program. But the rates are increasing, and we have the 16-17 year as well as multiple years reported here to show you that if we look at the 16-17 year up in the STRS, the first top half of that, we had to pay STRS $414,000 more during 16-17 than what we had to do in any of the prior years, because STRS, the state teachers retirement system, as did the other retirement system, have not been earning enough on their investments to make sure they have funds available for the retirees when they go to retire for their pensions. Down below, for the public employees retirement system, the classified employees, that same 16-17 line is not quite as much as the other one, but at an additional $141,000. So if you add those two together, between $500,000 and $600,000 more that we had to pay in 16-17. So that's an ongoing challenge that we have for the upcoming years as well. The next slide is a multitude of key fiscal factors that we look that drives our Benicia School District budget and when we close the books. And so we start with our known salary related costs. We have salary schedules in our district, and as our employees move up on those salary schedules each year, that's an additional cost. And so that is right at $400,000 a year more as our employees move up on the salary schedules. The employee retirement costs for those STRS and PERS pensions, over $500,000. In the outer years, it's over $600,000. And then what was unique to the current year, I've actually been focusing on the second column for 17-18 because we're doing a lot of analysis of our 17-18 budget. Just to kind of remind that we are talking about the 16-17 closed books. So in 16-17, we settled our negotiations. We don't have settled negotiations with our unions for the 17-18 year. But in 17-18, we do have the impact of the full year cost of the settlement with our Teachers Association from 16-17. When we settled with our teachers last year, they did not retroactively apply that raise to July 1st. It started on April 1st, so we accounted for 3 months of the cost of that. And so in 17-18, we have to budget and pay for the remaining, the additional costs. You have to annualize it, and so that's about $500,000. Some other revenues and expenses we take a close look at. Dr. Beatson mentioned in the LCAP, there's supplemental funds that we receive to serve our English learners, our lower socioeconomic families, and homeless students. And so that was, it's now at about $1.5 million. So there was $250,000 additional we had to come up with in 16-17, as well as some additional special ed costs. Number 3, we look at our student enrollment, which had been really stable and right around a flat enrollment from year to year. But up until the last couple years, we have been declining enrollment and adjusting staff as much as we can. But when we decline in enrollment, basically that big section of state funding for LCFF is based on our student enrollment or student attendance. And so if that goes down, we do get less money from the state. So we apply that to the next slide, and up at the top, we look at what our annual deficit or surplus is for each year. In that first column for 16-17, we mentioned earlier, we are operating at about a $200,000 deficit. However, as you glance across the columns, our 17-18 budget year, our deficit has increased quite a bit. And so we are going to be having conversations about adjustments that our district seriously needs to consider in order to get back on track. And that will be a main focus of the budget study session on next Monday night at 5:30 here in the district office boardroom. And so basically we will be talking about why the district is operating at that deficit, the challenges it faces like other districts. We'll hear from the experts in Sacramento from School Services of California, what's going on in Benicia and how we compare to other districts in the state. So in the bottom section, even though we are operating at a deficit, we're tapping into some funding in reserves to allow that to happen. But we do have the state 3% reserve, and we do have the local school board policy reserve. So we are providing this information, providing a positive certification for the budget. In the outer years, in 18-19, basically in order to maintain that positive certification and maintain those reserves, we would need to adjust the budget by $2 million. And I like the word budget adjustments. A lot of times people just think budget cuts, but you could also impact the revenue side. And so if the district was to have additional revenues that could come into the district or new revenues, then the expenditure cut side would not have to be the full $2 million. The rest of the slides
on the increasing costs for CalSTRS and CalPERS, is that? I know they're trying to get they're trying to make up some deficits in the past. Does that expect to be forever? So I looked at 2021, by 2021, 2022, about 15% of our entire budget is going to go to retirement. Is that going to be 15% every year, or are they stabilizing and then it'll go back down?
At this point, both retirement systems show, STRS, the teachers group, I believe that's the one that's locked in until 2021. And that's just under 2% each year, except in 2021, it's just about 1% increase. And in the PERS, I believe those rates can be changed if the group that sets those rates so determines. So honestly, I think this is their best guess at this time. They look at that each year.
There's no plan to bring employer contributions back down to what they were historically, or?
I have not heard or seen anything that would head in that direction, given what those pension plans are earning right now. That'll be a great question for school services on Monday night. I can send that to him ahead of time, but I have not seen that. It's also noteworthy that not only are these retirement systems collecting more from the employer, but they are also collecting more from the employee. So both the employee and the employer contributes into the pension plans, and so it's not just coming from one direction. As with the state teachers system, unlike the PERS system, the state of California is a third body that contributes into that state retirement system. So the state, the employer, like the school district, and the employee contributes into the STRS pension, versus PERS, it's just the employer and the employee.
I have a question. I don't know if it's the appropriate time, but in terms of revenue, how do we look? And maybe this is a question for other staff as well. But in terms of enrollment versus ADA, like, I'm just wondering if how do I articulate this? How we're doing in terms of ADA. And if there's any interventions we can do around attendance, because I know even if it's an excused attendance, we don't get the money for that day. So I'm just curious about if that's an issue, or if we see trends up or down around attendance, and potentially what kind of interventions we could be doing as a district to try to get that up.
Great point. And we just started that conversation in our administrators meeting yesterday. We had a topic on chronic absenteeism, which contributes to lower attendance and lower average daily attendance. You all know we don't get funded just because the kid is enrolled. They have to show up to class, and even if they're sick, we don't get paid for that day. And so we will be communicating on a monthly basis, school, site, ADA. And so we just finished our first school month of attendance. They're in 4-week groupings. And so Friday was the end of our first attendance month. And so what we are going to do is we're going to send out to each principal and probably follow up with the conversation in our administrators meeting. This was your attendance percentage from last year. And in our Benicia schools, it's not horrible ADA percentages. They are on average about 96%. So on any given day, about 96% of our students are attending school.
Do you know how that compares with, I'm sorry to interrupt, but how that compares with other districts, like the state average?
I don't know the state average off the top of my head, but we can bring that back Monday night as well.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And just to add to that a little bit, Dr. Patton, our Director of Student Services, one of her charge, and we've been talking about that specifically about strategies to improve attendance. And so we've been analyzing the trend data at the high school, the middle school, and the elementary level, and we've been generating ideas and ways to interact with students and families to help elevate that. So we're working on that right now. And she did some of that work in a previous district and had some success at all 3 levels. One of the things I think about, I think we're about 96% of our attendance, correct? Somewhere around there. And then, I think if you were able to raise it by, say, a percentage in a year, and then to calculate what a percentage increase on ADA would equate to revenue. So that is something we're looking carefully at.
Okay.
But being intentional and specific in ways and working with kids and families to improve that.
I think it might be helpful from school services is that they can provide us some insights on what other ways districts have found to increase revenue. I know this community hasn't been supportive of a parcel tax in the past, but just my time on the school board has felt like we are a melting ice cube. And with the increase in costs and all the things that we want to do for our employees and for our students, I don't see a way you get there without looking at the revenue side. I just don't see a way out of it. I mean, the projections that you're showing and the projections that are online with the increasing retirement costs and just normal costs, we've got all, technology costs and everything else, is just not a path. And cutting isn't just, I guess it's the only answer, but it's not the school district that we want.
Right, I agree with you, Trustee Morgan, because it seems like the costs are set, they're fixed for the most part. Well, and maybe they aren't in some ways as well, but I mean, that's my sense overall. And so, yeah, I think looking at revenue options.
Yeah, I will ask school services to comment about parcel tax, which is a way some districts have.
Anyway, I mean, any way that school districts have found creative ways to increase revenue, whether it's through increasing attendance, looking at other districts, I mean, you know, with our, I mean, none of the data paints a rosy picture for this school district. We have declining enrollment, increasing costs, and it just there's nothing that would suggest that this is going to end well for this district in this town unless we can be creative and find another source of revenue, whether it's improving attendance, increasing enrollment, or parcel tax. I don't know, but there has to be some effort on the revenue side, or this district will not look like the district that most of us came here for.
Yeah, I have just a few more slides in the PowerPoint, and summarize in the other packet. And so our goal is to provide you a unaudited actuals with a positive certification, which this does include. Based on the state did adopt its budget before June 30th. We use that information as well as the formula for the LCFF and provide for that state recommended or required 3% reserve. We've talked about the LCFF, which is based on not just the student enrolled, but actually attending school. In 16-17, we got just over $8,000 per student. If that student was there all 180 days, the state gave us the $8,058. So that LCFF does have, the formula includes a 20% bump for our students who are English learners or from lower socioeconomic households, as well as homeless. And so our student count in those three categories is about 22%. We have talked about the local control accountability plan that we put together that talks about what the programs in our district, and we're required to do that to get those state funds. This slide talks about what we were just talking about in regards to budget cuts. We use the title budget cuts to get the attention. I mentioned early, it doesn't necessarily have to be all on the expenditure side. As you guys have just mentioned, it could also be on the revenue side if we can bring in more of that. But it is about $2 million in adjustment for the following school year, 18-19.
And just to make a point on that if we can't find more revenue and we don't cut the $2 million, we would eat into the board reserve, which is one-time money, which means that any deficits beyond that puts us into a situation where the state is not certifying our financials. That's how close we are now.
That's how close we are now. And if under that scenario, always think of the reserve as a savings account. And if that was to be used or tapped into, that is just a one-time fix that just gets you through that 1 year. The problem doesn't go away. The $2 million is an ongoing problem because they're ongoing costs.
Well, again, looking at your Excel spreadsheet, but we have a $2 million deficit next year that we have to solve. If we use the reserve, that's gone. We're now at the state minimums, and then expenses continue to increase with contributions to retirement. Another $1 million, which either we cut or we decertify.
Yeah, you would. If you go into that 3% level, you become qualified certification or negative certification, and that's when the Solano County Office of Education and potentially representatives from the state fiscal and crisis management team get involved with school districts that file those types of certifications. In the most extreme case, yes.
And being taken over, which means that they can come in here, cancel contracts, renegotiate everything, bring this district back to what it views as the appropriate level of service and structure.
yeah, I'm not sure exactly the authority they have. I guess it varies depending on the financial system of each district. But in the most extreme cases, I do believe those types of authorities are provided to the state.
Sorry. Has there ever been any discussion too about honoring the enrollment numbers of districts versus the ADA? Because that's a huge difference in a lot of districts. It certainly would make a difference here too. That would generate money.
I have not heard any conversations about changing the state formula based on enrollment.
Whether absent or not, school is going on. All of those expenses are still happening.
That's very true. And I think there's also misunderstanding, at least even by me until recently. You know, a lot of parents, at least in my conversations with them, think that an excused absence is actually something we still get paid for. So, I mean, I think part of our job, and I'm sure part of what you guys are going to talk about, is how we can get that message out to families. And obviously, there's times where kids are sick and they can't come to school. But I think there's a misconception around that, for sure, a very broad misconception about that.
Right. And there's a difference between being sick versus
a vacation
day.
Yeah.
So, and I think that would be real important to clarify that and to communicate that, but I don't know.
Just one last question. I think you guys were doing some work with some experts on the demographic changes that might be occurring in Benicia. Are you at a point yet where you might be able to share your projections on trends long term? Are we going to see declining enrollment for 1 year? Is this going to be an ongoing trend?
Yeah, the demographic report actually, it either showed it in our 17-18 budget projections. We actually projected a bigger decline than what the demographic report, because we had information that showed we were going to have less students this year. And so we were hopeful that we would have more kids come, but they didn't. In fact, we actually had a little bit less than what we had projected for 17-18. If we had relied on the demographic report, we would have been even farther off. But their projections were a little bit more stable. And so we have that as a base. So at least the purpose of that demographic report was to see if in their wisdom, in their data analysis, in housing trends and markets in Solano County and in Benicia, if there was anything that we weren't catching. And it actually showed that it was a little bit more stable than what our information, talking with our principals and the data that we had of actual enrollments in our schools. So yeah, the demographic report didn't say it was going to get worse. They said they say it's going to get better. And so we're going to really closely monitor that. We're also starting with we do the first couple of weeks of school, we do enrollment counts at all the school sites, and then thereafter we kind of report out the first Monday count. The first Monday of every month, we send out an enrollment report for the district to each of to all the principals and administrators. So we're adding a section this year each month. We're also going to be including if your school the disenrollments at your school, and we're hopeful that we get that by grade level for each school and the reason why. So now, the principals and administrators can be aware of each month if there is an exodus from their schools, about what's happening, why these students are leaving. I looked at it for 16-17, and there's some kids that come and go at our schools. The high school the Benicia High School was the most, the one that went down the most. Whether those students go to Liberty or Independent Study or graduate early, but there was some noticeable difference that I did send to Principal Kleinschmidt this year. So as we start that conversation monthly now, we'll at least have a better grip on if we're having an exodus. We're not waiting till the end of the year. We're going to try to catch that earlier.
How important is it to us, the transfers from other districts? We didn't have that.
You know that we did just start talking about that. So Benicia historically has had about 10 to 12% of inter-district agreements. So students that come to Benicia schools enroll and attend, and we look at that each year. That 10 to 12%, I believe we do turn away some, but many of the IDAs, the inter-district agreements, the folks that want to come do get in, but not all. And it just depends on if we have availability in our schools. So historically, that range has worked for us. We could, we could consider trying, if more students came, obviously the funding would come with that. But then that's also, that could be considered a little bit more risky funding, because should those students not want to come, they don't have to. So we are constantly in the budget looking at how actuals are coming month to month. An important note on the last bullet, that contract negotiations have been settled for 16-17, but have not been settled for the current year or future years with our unions, and so there are no cost for any type, if there any type of negotiated salary settlements included in our 17-18 budget or our projections. And Dr. Gill just had the first negotiations meeting with our teachers union today, probably to be followed up with the first negotiations meeting with our classified unit in the month or so to come. So next steps, we are asking you to act and approve the budget tonight, the unaudited actuals, which we'll file with the county and with the State Department of Education. We hand this over to our auditors. They come back in October to finish their financial audit, and then they bring back their audit report to the school board in December. So as we've mentioned along the way, we have a special school board workshop on Monday night. This Monday night coming up, September 25th at 5:30, right here in the boardroom, where we can continue the conversation about our financial situation and some scenarios and options for the future, as well as what's going on at the state, what our experts in Sacramento see from their level, and what it might mean to school districts. We also will have some comparables in there. So we will see how Benicia compares to other districts in the area, as well as to other districts that are similar to our districts, like another unified district that has about 5,000 kids and is about 20% unduplicated count. But that district might be down south. But it's just good to compare to your neighbors, as well as to compare to other districts that are in similar situation to you.
Just wanted to say one last thing is that, Mr. Rahal, I really appreciate the clarity and the accuracy by which you present this information. I know you're the messenger, and this isn't good news. And my vote, when we vote, does not reflect at all your work. It's just my disagreement with the board on our deficit spending. So thank you for presenting the information.
Yeah, I always appreciate your reports, but when I first started on the school board, we had a larger reserve, and as a board, we chose, as other districts across the state were laying people off, we chose not to. We chose to use our reserves, and now we're at that point where we can't get off easy. We have to start making hard decisions the next couple of years. And I know Peter's you've talked about that many, many times. And, as I was looking at this earlier, and then as you're presenting it tonight, it's like, there's hard decisions we got to make. And if not this year, it's going to definitely have to be next year. But yeah, I'm just, I don't know, frustrated that the state the government altogether doesn't put more in towards our education of our kids, our future. Any other questions, comments? No. Thank you. As I find back to our meeting. So we have to do a recommendation here, or a motion. Oops, let me get on the right one. We have a motion to approve our unaudited actual financial report.
I have a question, procedural question. Can I ask a procedural question? So this vote is related to us getting these, because these are past. This is not how we're planning to spend our money, right?
No, this is
This is
a
a
vote
report of
to
how we
approve this
specific-
unaudited actuals report. Just to approve this report.
Got it. Okay, so I make a motion that we approve the 2016-2017 unaudited actual financial report for the Benicia Unified School District.
I will.
So I want to follow back. So what happens if we don't approve this? I mean, that is our report. That is your financial report on unaudited, and it still has to get filed with the county and the state.
Most likely, if the school board does not approve the unaudited actuals, it will go to the County Office of Education for their review and their action on it.
I mean, our approval is just accepting what your report and, you know. So, okay.
The statement that you're going to sign, Gary, says 2016-17 unaudited actual financial report. This report was prepared in accordance with Ed Code Section 41010 and is hereby approved and filed by the governing board of the school district pursuant to Ed Code Section 42100. That's all you're signing.
Yeah, this is what we've done.
Right. Right. I mean, we can't change anything. That's it. So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Passes 3-1. Okay, this time, that is it for our board meeting. I will adjourn. Thank you.